Danica McKellar made her television debut at just 12 years old.
Where do we get our values? Winnie.
From school.
For 6 seasons, Danica and her Wonder Years co-stars walked the halls of middle school and high school, growing up right in front of our eyes.
There's nothing that takes the place of the confidence that you get from feeling smart.
Yet today, 14 years after the finale of the Wonder Years, she is still walking the halls of school.
You take control of the test. You show that test who's boss.
For a very different reason.
You can do math with any of these kinds of pies.
Unlike so many child actors, Danica didn't let early fame get in the way of her education. She graduated with high honors from UCLA, found time to co-author a physics theorem that bears her name, and now has written a book reminding young girls that math isn't just for the guys.
I think her tips are really helpful, and they relate to real things in life.
In the book, I do a lot of examples of how math does come into your everyday life.
I do theater as well, or I act as well, and just to meet somebody that's interested in my favorite subject in school is just amazing, and she's such a role model for me.
If you had 1 2/5, that it's like 1 pizza, which is 5/5 plus 2/5. Like, I never saw that before.
Even with that kind of encouragement, Danica knows what these students are up against.
Really long numbers, big problems all confuse me. Sometimes if there's a big problem, really complicated, and I don't quite understand it, I'll get lazy and just kind of skip to the next problem.
But she insists it's worth it because, in her own words, cute and dumb is not nearly as good as cute and smart. And joining us now is Danica McKellar, the author of the new book entitled Math Doesn't Suck. Danica, good morning.
Good morning.
I mean, what a wonderful thing you're doing, and it isn't the norm. It's really out of the norm. How do you go from being a very famous Hollywood actress to not only learning math, but teaching it to others?
I love math, and I'm so passionate about helping girls not be afraid of math. For me, it was because I think my parents always emphasized education. They always said acting is a hobby, but the real stuff is how you develop yourself, you know, going to college. I never had any doubts about whether I was going to go to college or not.
Yeah, and you're targeting young women before perhaps they even start thinking about college, ages 10 to 13. Why do you think young girls tend to poo-poo math off? I mean, I kind of did. I thought, well, I've got the English mind. I'm not the math mind. But you say that's just the way perhaps we think about it.
Math has a really bad reputation. It's got a lot of bad PR behind it. People think of math as being too hard, or just for nerds, or just for boys, not for girls. And so
there's definitely a gender gap.
Yes. Well, and if you look at a lot of textbooks, the problems are centered around activities that tend to be more boy-friendly than girl-friendly. You know, there's a lot of sports and baseball averages and things like that. And so in my book, I just did the other. I said, well, let's do it in the context of things that girls are going to find relevant and interesting.
Like shopping, sales.
You know, what did I like at that age? I was boy crazy. I liked playing with makeup, and you know, it's the first time when girls are experimenting with that stuff and asking the question, who am I? So just like the teen magazines, I've got personality quizzes, you know, are you a mathophobe? I teach math with things like, do you still have a crush on him? I teach common factors like that. It's really
fantastic.
Fun.
And we should mention, though, because we talked about the gender gap, even after many attempts to change things, only 28% of women pursue careers that have to do with math, and just 11% enter the workforce as engineers. Why do you think that is?
Well, I really do think it has to do with, first of all, bad PR. Women's lib movement is doing great, but still has a long way to go. A lot of times, mothers, you know, if they had a hard time with math, tell their daughters, well, honey, I wasn't good at math either. And that just makes it worse, because you know what, as parents, especially as moms, you are your daughter's biggest role model. Even if she pretends like she doesn't care, she's watching and she's listening.
Yep, and as impressive as your career has been, you also are here to talk a little bit about some of your co-stars on the Wonder Years. They haven't done so bad for themselves either.
You know what, there's something in the water, I think, at the Wonder Years. All the moms truly bonded together, and they watched out for us. We were not the typical Hollywood set. We didn't have the typical Hollywood stage moms. They all really cared about us and our education. They made sure we got good breaks. They just made sure we were still kids.
And it was a smart show the whole time. It wasn't exploitive. I mean, you really were that cute nerd girl that we all wanted to be, that we thought we couldn't be.
Right. And yeah, middle school, that very time that I wrote the book for, which is that time that self-esteem is in flux. You're starting to wonder who you are and who you're supposed to be, and your body's going through changes. It's just a really fragile time. And especially when math has such bad PR. Girls are saying, well, I'm not sure who I am, but I'm not somebody who's good at math.
It's fantastic that you're there to speak to them. What's next next for you? The sky's the limit, obviously.
Well, acting. I'm going to be on an episode of How I Met Your Mother on October 15th. And I really love being a math education activist and author. I'll probably be doing another book.
No one's going to mess with your salary. I bet that. All right, Danica McKellar, thanks so much for being with us. We
Thank
appreciate
you.
it.